Chapter 10. Cassandra had that Thursday night off. As usually happened, she spent it with Sadie. The dynamic around her house in the suburbs was different, but it was pleasant. Sadie had never really said much about her mother, and Cassandra had only seen her once while helping Sadie move out. She was a tired, sullen woman, matching the descriptions of years of alcohol Sadie brought up now and again. Cassandra assumed she probably always looked angry, even when she wasn't. Sadie's cousin and his wife, Peter Ingram and Charlene, were both well-to-do attorneys, who met and married back in law school. They had adult children Cassandra occasionally saw, but they spent most of the year at university, or living their own lives elsewhere. Cassandra helped Sadie bring a couple of paper bags of groceries in from her car and set them on the granite counter. As Sadie hung up her coat, she called, "All right, if you want to start chopping up those peppers and onions, go for it." After a little rifling around, Cassandra found the vegetables Sadie mentioned. Peter and Charlene didn't ask much of his cousin, especially while she was trying to finish high school after a year off. But they didn't complain when Sadie insisted on cooking a few nights a week. At least they didn't when she started looking up some good recipes and YouTube tutorials. Cassandra pulled out one of the cutting boards, set it on the far side of the counter, and went to work dicing peppers and onions into sofrito, while Sadie slit the plastic wrap off a container of chicken legs. "Man, you're good at that." Sadie started cutting slashes into the chicken for extra surface area, as, fast and hard, Cassandra sliced the vegetables to bits. Alfred's a good teacher. Cassandra looked up and the two exchanged smirks. Her positioning was intentional. If Cassandra stood there, Sadie would need to stand to her right, meaning it would be the left side, the side without that bit of metal that left Cassandra so perturbed that mostly faced her. She took notice of that back in the car, where the spot in the front seat left her stuck on the right side. As Stephanie instructed, she kept the discomfort contained as best she was able. "Should you start the pan?" "In a second. My fingers are all raw chickeny." Sadie stepped aside to wash her hands, drew out the kitchen's largest skillet, and started thumbing at the recipe on her phone. "Okay, salt the drumsticks and fry them to build up some fond." As she started seasoning the meat, Cassandra dug through another grocery bag with a carrot and started to peel. "You sure this doesn't bother you? Coming to hang out with me just to be stuck grocery shopping and cooking?" "Been over this. No." Cassandra meant to be direct, but even she feared that might have come out a little too curt. "I mean, I like it." It was an honest answer. The Wayne household rarely had need for Cassandra to run mundane errands, and even back when she lived with Barbara, she was only asked to help on occasion. Tagging along for groceries felt enjoyable, and being admired for her chopping skills felt nice, never mind their unspoken origin. Sadie collected the chopped vegetables, fried them in the rendered chicken fat, and started to measure out paprika. "Once this thing goes in the oven, we can sit down for a bit. We don't need to start the egg noodles until it actually turns into paprikash." Cassandra squinted her eyes and asked, "Remember to turn the oven on?" "What? Of course I did." Sadie turned around, looked, and let out a long groan. "Well, guess we'll be waiting a little longer for the preheat time then." Both got a laugh out of that as Cassandra stepped into the living room. The walls were done all in red, the couches were beige, and one corner held a bookshelf of exceptionally thick volumes on laws and presidents that was mostly just for show. The only other thing of note were the various photographs and paintings hung on the wall, ranging from riversides and gazebos to bombastic abstracts full of watercolor. Most notable because Sadie had taken and painted several of them. Sadie sometimes said he hung them out of pity, but if Peter was around, he'd object and insist otherwise. Charlene and Peter took the same car most mornings, so they arrived home at the same time. Peter gave a quick, "Hello," and Charlene a brief, "Smells good," and they both headed to their bedroom to change out of their office clothes. Within 15 minutes, all four were seated around the kitchen table as Sadie laid out dinner. Everyone went right to work dishing up. Cassandra said a quick prayer to herself and performed a sign of the cross. A few bites in, Peter said, "Sadie, you're getting very good at this. Cassandra, did you help?" "Thank you. Yes, she was my sous chef. Chopped everything up real nicely." "It's very good. Actually tastes a little like our trip to Prague." He chuckled as he motioned to his wife. "Remember when we discovered goulash definitely isn't beef and macaroni?" Charlene laughed. She wore her 40s well, sporting blonde hair cropped short enough to not require any real management, though still longer than Sadie's cut. Black-rimmed glasses, and a tight smile. "For sure. Cassie, homeschooling still going all right?" Her work kept her glued to a computer or a legal pad even when she was in conversation, but she sounded genuinely interested. "It is fine. Keeps me busy," Cassandra said. In reality, lessons with Alfred and chats online with Barbara had been on the decline for a while. Cassandra could read and write well enough to keep up appearances, which Bruce said was more than he'd ever anticipated. He'd also said having normal interactions with people like Sadie's relatives would probably be a better method of improving her speech than anything she could be taught on paper. "That sounds pretty great right now," Sadie said. "The school year's barely started and it feels like all the teachers are already ticked off all the time. Wondering if some of them aren't out getting beaten up by Batman at night." "I told you not to talk like that." Charlene rolled her eyes. "You don't know how awful those people are." She turned toward Cassandra. "You can't imagine. I don't even work the criminal cases, but I work with their families sometimes. They're painfully unhealthy people." "I have heard that." Cassandra did not mention it came from Charlene herself. Peter spoke up to say, "I still don't think a gang of roving vigilantes is a good answer to the problem, but there are a lot of people who would be dead if not for Batman and his company. It's not a great permanent solution, but at least it's something." There seemed to be a mutual understanding that there would be no talk of Sadie's own encounter with Gotham's underground. Peter and Charlene didn't have a reason to worry. As Sadie put it, "Whatever they hit me with makes it feel more like an awful dream. It's not traumatic in the way it could be. It seems too weird to be real." The meal went on pleasantly. Since first being exposed to outside contact, Cassandra had, in her own way, always wondered if the homes and families presented in advertisements and other images ever actually existed. If people actually did come together around tables and actually eat and talk with one another at the end of a long workday. There had been rare times in Wayne Manor she and her siblings had done so, but the thought Sadie did this all the time was a new one. Cassandra didn't say much, but collected whatever she could from their exchanges. Talk of school, an adoption case, whether the deck needed new furniture. She didn't understand a lot of it, but in an odd way, she was very happy to be present. Peter asked, "Sadie, your projects down in the studio going well?" She shrugged. "I keep trying to do something cool and trippy with the skyline, but something keeps going wrong. I get too bored in the moment or whatever. This next one's gonna be crap." "Your work is not crap. I'm telling you, I think they're excellent," Peter said. "When my friends from the office come over, they always ask me where your stuff on the wall comes from. And I tell them my cousin made them, and it makes me prouder than any case I've won." Cassandra felt he was being overindulgent, but she also knew Sadie's work really was excellent. Unlike the films Sadie insisted on going to, Cassandra could at least somewhat understand her artwork. Or at least understand how beautiful it looked when dozens of colors flowed into any natural arc or shape as Sadie saw fit. Charlene asked, "Did Sadie show you those pieces she submitted to that school out in Chicago?" As soon as she finished the sentence, Sadie hacked and coughed on the water she was drinking. When it didn't die down after a few more seconds, Cassandra hit Sadie in the back twice before her breathing finally settled. Her breaths were still heavy and she wiped at her mouth with her napkin, scowled at Charlene, and said, "No, I haven't." The situation slowly dawned on Cassandra, and she asked, "What's she talking about?" Across the table, Peter frowned. "What? What now?" Charlene's eyes went wide with embarrassment. "You said you told her already. I thought you said she was fine with it." Sadie didn't respond at first, looked down at her plate, and held her forehead. "Yeah, I know I said that." As she rubbed her forehead, she looked to Cassandra. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this. It's not that big a deal. I'm pretty sure I'm not getting in anyway." Charlene took a sip from her cup and pushed her glasses to pinch the bridge of her nose. "You know, this is why we'd asked you if you'd said anything already. This is exactly what we were trying to avoid." Sadie pinched the bridge of her own nose. "I know." Cassandra sank into her chair a little more. "And you guys wouldn't believe me when I kept saying I'd do it on my own time," Sadie said. After a few reluctant seconds, Sadie turned to Cassandra. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything. I know this isn't you guys' fault. I don't know." "Chicago is far away," Cassandra said. "Yeah." Sadie picked at her food, as if to distract herself. "It's far away." Dinner ended shortly thereafter. There were a few more attempts at conversation, but it wasn't long before Cassandra said she was tired, and Sadie agreed she should be driven home for the night. It was about 25 minutes to Wayne Manor from Peter and Charlene's house. Sadie usually talked for most of the drive back, and Cassandra would smile and nod. For the first few minutes of the drive, however, the silence was largely mutual. Sadie first attempted to break it as they drove past the skeleton of a huge, dome-like building, 3 miles outside of Gotham's downtown. Finally heard what's going in there. Cassandra didn't respond. One of those mega-churches. Yes? Cassandra asked. I don't get it. I guess if it makes people happy, whatever. But we've got how many churches in Gotham already? 5,000. That number wasn't leaving Cassandra's head anytime soon. You're religious. I'm not. You tell me. Do we really need another big eyesore out around here that just looks like a big Jesus-y concert hall, less dignified than those places downtown? You are avoiding Chicago. Sadie bit her lip and tapped her fingers on the steering wheel for a few seconds before she mumbled something. Cassandra asked, What? Nothing. Cassandra wasn't sure, but thought she made out the words, my ring, when she'd first said it. After another 2 miles of silence, as Sadie drove out of the suburbs and toward the hills, she said, I know I should have said something. I'm sorry. Why didn't you tell me? I would have been happy for you. Because, as you pointed out, Chicago's a long way away, Sadie said. And wherever I'm going when I graduate, I just want to enjoy spending time with you right now. Sadie set a hand on Cassandra's knee and squeezed gently. There was never going to be a good time to tell you, and I didn't want to mess up any night that was already going good. I'm sorry for that. At another squeeze, Cassandra sighed, rested her head against the window, and took Sadie's hand into one of hers. The two held one another silently until the car arrived at the manor's gate.